So here's what the roadmap looks like for the next 2 weeks. And then we'll continue to add as we start to move through this gradual phase. Arizona's stay at home, stay connected, and stay healthy order remains in place until May 15th. But with several important modifications that will help us move forward and move towards re-energizing Arizona's economy. Elective surgeries are now permitted to resume as of today. And on Monday, May 4th, retail stores that are not currently on the essential business list may voluntarily reopen and offer limited curbside pickup or delivery for now. On Friday, the May 8th, these retailers may voluntarily begin to have customers in their stores with reduced occupancy and adherence to strict physical distancing requirements as outlined by CDC, and implementing a comprehensive sanitation protocols and continuing to offer curbside or delivery. Fitting rooms in clothing stores must remain closed. This change includes any retail not currently included in the essential services list, and that is not a hair salon, a nail salon, barbershop, or a bar. Those are still not permitted. Retailers located within closed areas or buildings such as shopping malls may operate through delivery, curbside, or appointment only. And the goal is to have restaurants to have dine-in service beginning in May with a date yet to be determined. But the governor will release a plan next week, informed by CDC guidance and the restaurant industry input, with ample notice given to the restaurants for reopening timelines. We know in speaking to a number of businesses that advance warning is critical to be able to order supplies, get employees back, absolutely critical. And so we are committed to making sure that the industry, and in this case, as we talk about the restaurants, have advance warning. And we're working with Steve Chukri and the Arizona Restaurant Association to make sure that the guidance will be available to all restaurants, and that will be presented next week. And because of the steps that we've taken thus far, and because Arizona's have acted responsibly, we've avoided tragic situations that many other states have seen. And as you've seen in Arizona, we have been able to flatten the curve. And so our decision-making in Arizona will continue to be data-driven, deliberate, and incremental, taking into account the most recent guidance from the CDC and the Arizona Department of Health Services. We will continue to provide advance notices to those businesses. We know that there's prep time necessary, and so we'll make sure that all new guidance that is given in advance so that businesses can prepare. And while I wish I could provide a definitive roadmap for the next 2 months, we're just not able to see that far into the future at this point. We're taking it step by step, day by day. The governor is working closely, obviously, with the national leaders and Dr. Kara Chris to make sure that we've got a plan of action that keeps Arizonans safe. So what we do know is that the sacrifices that the citizens have had to make Arizona and Arizonans feel safe, that we're headed in the right direction. And as we approach May 15th, there's a lot to think through as a business community. We're here and available to work with the business community to understand what their plans are, what they're putting in place as industries to ensure the public safety is prioritized. In addition, we know that it's very important to ensure that your employees feel safe as well. So we'll be looking for protocols from employers that ensure that their employees are safe and that their customers are safe. And there's lots of guidance through the CDC, information on the governor's website on best practices. We're adding industry best practices to our website as well. So if you want to know what's happening in a particular industry and what protocols are being placed by other employers, we'll be posting that kind of information. And if you come across something or you want to share, a best practice that you are doing, we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to be able to share that with other employers. And we want to make sure that we've got a single source where you can get the information you need. Some of the things people are thinking about is floor plans, the safety of their employees. Will they be wearing masks? Will they be doing temperature checks? Are they wearing gloves? And so there's a number of considerations, and we're interested in hearing from employers to better understand how they are going to implement the CDC guidelines, social distancing, and sanitation guidelines that are currently in place. And Brad, there's so much more going on, but let me pause there. I know there's probably lots of questions, and I want to be able to take those questions. So I'll turn it back over to you. Hey, Brad.
Sorry, had it on mute. I just want to remind all our listeners out there on Zoom to post your questions on the Q&A. I'm getting some over in the chat, so I'm going to try to blend them all together. But if you could just post under the Q&A tab on your Zoom, it'll be easier for me to track them. I think one of the things, as you started to hit at the end, Sandra, that a question we're getting is people really want, they want to know when we can open up. And I know we can't answer that question, but maybe you could share maybe more, who is the governor working with to analyze the information to make that decision of when they're going to open up and how Arizona can open up? Because I think it might be helpful to know that, who's in the room and where's the data coming from that's making this decision.
Right. Good question. And so the governor announced over 2 weeks ago that he wanted to work with industry, work with business leaders to better understand what their plans were and how they were going to follow these guidelines and what protocols they were going to put in place. So we're listening to our employers. We're reaching out to the chambers, to the associations, to individual businesses to better understand what protocols that they're putting in place. So that information is being evaluated. We received over 250 ideas and plans that were submitted to to me or to Debbie or our organizations. And we've been evaluating that information, providing that information to the governor and his team to make sure that they've got that information. In addition, obviously, as he's done since the beginning, is working directly with Dr. Chris and the Arizona Department of Health Services, guidance from the CDC and the White House as well as they issued their guidance. So all of those pieces are being evaluated as he's making decisions on what's next. So we are in the process of gathering more data and information. So I would encourage all of your listeners, as well as any of the businesses in your region that haven't submitted to provide that information to us. We are looking at that, and we are balancing the information that we're getting from industry along with the guidance given by CDC and the Department of Health to ensure that that safety, health and safety are our primary focus, but while also focusing on re-energizing the economy. So those decisions are being made with input from industry, with input from health professionals, and obviously with a sort of prioritizing the health and safety of our citizens. The other thing I would mention is that the governor has done several teletown hall, and we just had one yesterday. So there's been a significant amount of input that's been provided by a number of leaders throughout Arizona.
Thank you. I'm getting several questions on restaurants, and I know that's probably a really hot button across the state. And they want to know when restaurants can open up. And I know we may not have the specific date, but if I blend all the questions together, is the governor considering patio dining different from inside the restaurant dining? And is that being considered in being able to open up restaurants? Right now, they're allowed to do carry out and take out and that type of service, but will like patios be open maybe before inside dining?
The governor had mentioned that restaurants are next up, and he is working with the Restaurant Association and business leaders throughout Arizona to determine what that next step looks like. And so we are gathering that information and working side by side to develop the right guidelines. As the governor's focused on making sure that the guidelines are met. So social distancing, sanitation are critical. Indoor, outdoor, leaving that up to the business to be able to determine how they're going to implement the policies. And so each, there has been some discussion, and some have talked about a percentage. And the governor's not interested in putting an actual percentage. What he's interested in doing is making sure that you have the guidance that you need, and the protocols in place will determine what your capacity is going to be. So he wants to leave that up to the employer. He wants to make sure that the employer has the guidance that they need. And as long as they're able to meet that guidance, they can make those determinations.
Great, thank you so much. Here's another one on a restaurant, and this one might be a little more simple to answer. They want to know what kind of masks are going to be required for workers to use if they're going to be required in a restaurant setting.
Well, there's guidance on the types of masks on the CDC website, and we'll be putting up guidance as well. So as all of that is developed and determined, we'll be able to provide with the type of mask covering. So we'll make sure we get that information out to everyone.
Okay, and so if there's a different type of mask that's required for a server versus somebody prepping food versus somebody in a retail store, you'll have all that guidance posted on your website?
Correct.
Great, thank you. Here's a question on the PPP. They said they were just awarded the PPP, so they're one of the small businesses that were successfully through that process. Their question is, why do they have to spend it within 8 weeks, and why are is the guidance that way rather than maybe say over 16 weeks as we try to ramp up the economy? The concern is we don't have all our employees back yet. So do you have any insight to that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The way that program was crafted was designed to carry small businesses through a very critical time during the period of shutdown. And so the funding can be extended beyond the 8 weeks. The refundable or forgivable piece, so the portion of the loan that can be forgivable is for the 8 weeks. But if they don't use those fundings, they can actually keep the loan. They'll end up paying, I believe it's a 1% interest rate for the funding. So that would be up to the employer on how they would like to use those dollars. The 8 weeks is really just the designation for the forgivable piece. And so if they want to ensure that they're using some of those dollars to pay rent and employees, they're able to use some of that for the 8-week period, and that will be forgivable.
Great, thank you so much. Here's one gentleman was on the call yesterday, as was I, with the governor when he was giving his conference call yesterday. And there was a question about the opening of pools within hotels. So not public pools as community pools, but specifically hotel pools and jacuzzis. And the question is, it wasn't real clear when they would be open. And so maybe the question is, when will there be further guidance on being able to open up pools in the hotel system?
Yeah, I don't have a specific date for you right now, but it is being evaluated. and that is being looked at by the Department of Health Services, so that we can safely open up those pools.
Okay, and then the guidance will just be posted on your website again?
Again, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Another question here regarding hairdressers and salons. Understand they will not be open until at least May 15th. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is for the whole state, including our, rural Arizona, Prescott Valley?
Correct. There's been no guidance at this point given on when those establishments will open. As of today, we've talked about Main Street retail and restaurants are next. And then as we start to look at other industries, we'll make sure that information is provided, and there is advance warning and notice on that.
Great, thank you. Is there a specific area for hotel industry where they can go get specific guidance to that industry?
Yeah, and many of them are already working with Debbie Johnson, who is the director of the Arizona Office of Tourism, and she is leading that effort, working with our hospitality industry. So she has been able to compile a lot of information and data. And for those of you in that industry, I would encourage you to connect with Debbie. And if you need contact information, Brad, we can send that out to you, and you can get that out to those on the call.
Yeah, that would be great. And in that guidance or over what they'll be providing would be specific to like hotel employees and guest safety protocols?
I believe she's developed best practices for the hospitality industry, and she'll be able to share that information.
Great. Is it possible that some counties will have restrictions relaxed sooner than other counties, or will we be unrolling this statewide?
All of that is being considered. And so the governor is looking at all the data and is considering all his options.
Okay. You had mentioned earlier about the restaurants, and that you were taking, you had mentioned that for opening dining in May that the governor was taking in from restaurant input. So a couple of the restaurant owners are asking, where can they go to provide input? Is that open to all restaurants, or how do they get involved with that process?
Absolutely. Would love to hear from them. They can either call me or Debbie. Happy to set up a call and work with them on the guidance or the protocols that they're putting in place.
Great. Here's one on building confidence. I never hear anything about what towns are doing to help build confidence in the customers, which will help some small businesses get off the ground. How about portable hand washing stations in heavy traffic areas, like around the square or high public gathering areas? Are things like this being considered by the governor and the team?
I would imagine that each of the cities are thinking through what their protocols are going to be. What the governor is doing is giving clear guidance across the state, and then the local leaders are developing guidance for their areas based on his guidance. So I would imagine that's probably more of a local issue protocol to make sure that that these sanitation areas are in place. So I would say that we're providing that statewide guidance, and how the local leaders implement that is left up to the local leaders.
So I have a question based regarding the guidance that the governor and the team issues, and they keep issuing updates to the guidance. Is there a sense, is this guidance going to be time driven, like expire at some point in time, or is this going to be guidance that the governor and the team see that should be up forever?
So do you mean the guidance as it relates to?
I think health and safety issues. So is it going to be a guidance as long as the virus is with us? Is there a point in time where it goes away, the health and safety guidance, or is it something that maybe we're considering will be permanent? I
believe we're looking at guidance for to re-energize the economy. So as we're working with businesses, we're looking at ways in which to provide the guidance that employers need to build the consumer confidence and to re-energize the economy. This guidance is in place for a period of time, and whether or not it gets extended beyond that will depend on the virus. When we have a vaccine, when we have solutions that will be longer term. At this point, this guidance will be in effect until the governor's orders expire. And beyond that, there may be some changes, as we saw changes in other situations where these became best practices and employers started to use them. So some of these things will likely fall off. I'm not sure that people will continue to wear masks beyond this, but there might be some things that have been implemented as a result of this that employers will want to keep. So again, for now, we're focused on the period of time that there's no vaccine, and we'll continue to focus on what those next steps are going to be.
So did I hear you right? A guidance operates similar to his executive orders. It has a period in which it's enforced, and then the governor has a decision to make at the end of that period whether they want to continue it or let it expire. Does guidance work the same way?
Well, he's generally put guidance into his executive orders as well. Okay. The protocols that are established from the business are the business owners' protocols, and they're adhering to the same policies. So the policies that the governor puts in place are designed to provide guidance to employers on ensuring that their safety protocols for their employees and for their customers. Those executive orders are in place for a certain period of time. And as you saw, he extended the executive order that was set to expire on the 30th. He extended it with modifications to May 15th. So the executive orders and the policy and guidance that he's been providing has had timeframes on them.
Okay. Here's a question around, we hear talk about Major League Baseball and sporting events and concerts, and I know the governor has mentioned that Arizona has the facilities to help Major League Baseball get started up again. The question is centered around what kind of thinking or what are the thoughts about how and when large gatherings will be allowed again?
Yeah, again, we're dealing with guidance from the White House, CDC, and our healthcare professionals, and large crowds are a challenge. So we'll continue to gradually phase in the various industries. Testing is increasing. We're seeing a lot more tests being done in Arizona. Those antibody tests are important to individuals and also to build public confidence. So I can't predict when we're going to have large gatherings again, but I know that there's, we'd like to get back to what we hope is a future where we can all get together and go to these sporting events. But at this point in time, we're taking it one step at a time, and those large gatherings are in the distant future until there is solutions, whether it's continued testing, a vaccine, to ensure that we can safely gather in these large groups.
Okay, great. I know we're getting close to the end of the time, so I want to get a couple more questions in if we can. Question here is, has the Arizona Board of Cosmetology provided their recommendations to the governor for sanitation and mitigation of salon openings?
We are working with a number of businesses and associations. I'd have to go back in our records to see whether or not they specifically submitted, but we have worked with industry leaders and business leaders across all industries. So I don't have a specific on that particular one, but I do know that people within the industry are submitting.
Okay, and this next one, I think I know the answer to it because he talked about it yesterday, but I don't think the governor ordered any churches closed, even though I know some of them have suspended services or gone to Zoom. But maybe you could confirm the governor's position on churches and their ability to have service.
Yeah, again, he had a list of company or industries and groups that remained open as part of either essential services. So churches were one that he did not close, but because of the large gatherings, it obviously many of our churches decided that they were not going to operate. Very similar to hotels, and they were also not closed, but obviously, public confidence and people just lack of travel these days, and people moving out, getting out of their homes, obviously had a significant impact on the hotel industry. So there were a number of industries that remained as essential businesses: construction, manufacturing, as we mentioned, the housing, so hotels and others. In Arizona, we had an expanded list of essential businesses. And when we hear other governors talking about reopening their economy, as we heard in New York, their first two industries that they're reopening their economy with is construction and manufacturing. We never shut those down in Arizona. The governor never shut those down. They were critical. So for Arizona, we've had businesses operating, and we've had people working. And so re-energizing our economy is very important. We know that there have been a number of businesses who have been significantly impacted, and some businesses have shut down. But in Arizona, we had a very expansive list of essential businesses. And so some states are now bringing some of those businesses back on, but in Arizona, they've always remained open.
Great. Well, we're just at our time, Sandra. So there's been several questions just wanting to confirm when you refer to on our website, you can go get information. So can you just list the website you're referring to for them, and then we'll make sure we get it posted as well?
Excellent. So it's azcommerce.com. Or you can go to arizonatogether.org. Got information on both of those websites. Also, for anyone who needs my email address, you can send me an email at Sandra W, SANDRAW @azcommerce.com.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think this was very helpful. We got a lot of good information. A lot of questions came in. We couldn't get to all of them, but I want to be respectful of your time because I know you just go from one meeting to another down there trying to help the governor out with all this economy reopening business that you guys are working out. So, but on behalf of the Fain Signature Group and the entire team up here, I just want to say thank you for taking an hour out of your day to share information with us.
Thank you, Brad. I really appreciate your leadership. Happy to work with you and all of the businesses in the Prescott area and Yavapai County. Very important to us that we work in a very collaborative way. So we're happy to help and provide whatever resources necessary to ensure that our businesses have the information they need to ramp back up. So thank you for inviting me. I truly appreciate it. And I'll make myself available to you and to the businesses in Prescott and quite honestly all over the state as you need support.
Great, thank you. And to all the listeners out there, I want to thank you for giving us an hour of your time to listen in and ask Sandra some questions. This is how we're going to get through this process, is by working together and collaborating with information and having discussions just like this. So to all of you small businesses, thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for being a part of the call today. And we're in this together and we're going to survive together. So thank you all. Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.